okay? Are we all okay? I started experiencing heart palpitations at the age of 2021. It was very scary. I thought I'm just going to keep my head down and work really hard, and one day I'll be appreciated, right? I just turned 30, so I've been kind of thinking about my 20s a lot and how I kind of wasted them chasing my passions. In this video, I wanted to share how I did that as a hustle culture obsessed overachiever for anyone who might be able to relate. And ironically, why I'm kind of glad I wasted them. First, let me explain how my passions led me to the cult of hustle culture. I first discovered my passion for art pretty early in life, around middle school. Technically, I've been drawing my entire life, but it was in middle school where I decided to pursue art as a career. But I wasn't really the artist in school that most other people are. I grew up in a hyper-competitive Asian community where you are pretty much judged, compared, demeaned if you don't meet other people's expectations of excellent. So people were kind of like, oh, you can draw? So can literally everyone else. Oh, you're good at writing? Well, I'm taking 5 AP classes and I never sleep. So naturally, I developed an intense case of imposter syndrome. And the way I learned how to survive this community was putting on an impenetrable suit of armor made out of work ethic. So by the time I was 20, I was about to graduate from one of the most competitive art schools in the country. I had interned for some prestigious companies while I was in school, and then I freelanced for them during my winter and summer breaks. My motto was, I'll sleep when I'm dead, meaning I slept on average 2 to 4 hours every night. I neglected my friends and family, and no way was I going to have kids or get into a relationship because I thought these imaginary people were going to get in the way of me accomplishing my dreams. If you knew me back then, I wasn't a great person. I was cranky and short-tempered because I wasn't sleeping. Everyone around me adopted this zero-sum game mentality where they wanted you to fail so they could succeed. So naturally, I also became hyper-competitive. That made me a really judgmental, intense kind of person. If I were being brutally honest with myself, it was because I was really insecure back then. My ego needed me to be somebody great one day. I wanted to prove everybody who ever told me I would fail wrong. But in reality, what I really wanted deep down inside was somebody to just tell me that I'll be okay, that I am good enough. Did I get that? Of course not. Was I kind enough to myself to give that to myself? Hell no. Around the same time, I started experiencing some pretty alarming health issues. I started experiencing heart palpitations. It would feel like I had an irregular heartbeat every once in a while, or like I was having a heart attack at the age of 2021. It was very scary. And I also started fainting pretty regularly. There was one time I was in the shower and I started getting really dizzy out of nowhere. So I grabbed my head, looked at my hands, and pulled out chunks of hair. Like it just fell out of my head. And then I collapsed and blacked out. And then woke up because the hot water was scalding me because I had fallen on the hot water handle thing. I considered it a good week if all I had to deal with were anxiety nightmares. Even my body failing was not going to stop me from achieving my dreams. The next part of the story involves how achieving my dreams kind of also meant losing friends. I wasn't prepared for the amount of jealousy that kind of comes with achieving things. A year before I graduated college, I applied for and almost got hired on a job at DreamWorks Animation. I didn't end up getting the job, but other people's jealousy caused me to lose several friends all around the same time, which made me develop lifelong trust issues. Fun. I'm not trying to blame anyone here because it was like a decade ago. We were young, we were dumb, we were jealous, and we were all insecure. And I probably didn't handle a lot of those relationships very well to begin with. The point of bringing this up was it was the beginning of a huge mental shift for me. It was the very first time I started questioning whether all these decisions I had made up until this point to be a workaholic and to neglect everyone in my life and to be kind of a shitty person really worth it. I started feeling incredibly lonely. I postponed a lot of life things up until that point. Traveling, getting into romantic relationships, birthdays, moments in life that I would never get back. Up until that point, I never questioned my decisions. I always thought it was worth it. But then that was a moment where, I don't know, life hits you hard. So I let myself chill out for once. I hung out with people, and that's when I met the person I'd be spending the rest of my life with, Vincent. Granted, we're both artists from the exact same school, so we kind of enabled each other's intense work ethic. So because I was less lonely, I put all my doubts aside and continued to work really hard. I was freelancing whenever I had time. During the week, I was testing, which means doing free work for the Hollywood studios. I know that is not normal for any other field, but they continue to do it to this day, so it is what it is, I guess. We were tabling at conventions, selling our art, so I was pretty much working 7 days a week, hustling to get hired. I had gotten so many rejections from pretty much every single studio you can think of. Eventually, I got exactly what I wanted at 22. I was hired at DreamWorks and then subsequently at Disney. And this is when I realized a dream job doesn't exist. Over the next few years, I realized exactly what a mistake it was to chase after a dream job like this so intensely. Let me share what kind of person I was like when I first started working. I never really got over my imposter syndrome, so for the first 3 months at least of working, I had this irrational fear that I was going to get fired for some reason. So I always went above and beyond. I'm actually an incredibly socially awkward human being in real life, and especially back then, I was so much younger, so much less mature, sure about myself. I knew I didn't have the soft skills needed to get noticed in the workplace. So I worked my butt off trying to impress. I was doing lots of free labor, like they would ask me to draw and design birthday cards for people. Not really part of my job title. I really shouldn't be asked to do that. But yes, you ask me to jump, I will say how high at that point. Other people can just kiss ass and get promoted. I thought I'm just going to keep my head down and work really hard and one day I'll be appreciated, right? Wrong. I worked so hard for just a few cents raised by the end of the year. And did anyone notice me? Of course not. Most people just take the opportunity to treat me like shit and overwork me. I started noticing some really questionable behavior from my peers and from higher ups. It became really obvious why people formed cliques as some kind of self-preservation thing, but also as this weird power trip because people in Hollywood like to look down on other people. I witnessed people treated like shit for no reason, hired and fired for personal reasons. The quality of work you did didn't really matter for the most part, so it became really demoralizing. Like, why should I work hard if none of it really matters to anyone? And even if you worked really hard and everyone liked you, you would still potentially be let go for bullshit reasons. The Me Too movement was happening at the time, and I saw a lot of questionable behavior from all sides. After a couple years of this, it became very clear to me that my dream job was a complete lie. All I wanted to do was to enjoy creating for a living and to think that maybe what I did mattered to someone. The kids who watched the cartoons, or at the very least, my boss. I never wanted to play this weird game of Hollywood politics. All of this made me feel like I had wasted my life for the past decade, and I continue to waste it for as long as I work. And in order to cope, I was self-medicating basically with alcohol, pot, and food. And trust me, if you think I am the abnormal one, literally everyone in Hollywood does something to cope. Things much worse than what I did. And then they try to convince each other that everything is fine. The amount of gaslighting that I experienced really kind of drove me insane. I was the one made out to be the crazy one for even daring to ask, are you okay? Are we all okay? It's an incredibly cult-like situation where you don't feel like you can say or do anything about your situation. You just kind of feel trapped. This brings me to why I'm grateful for my quarter life crisis. By 25, I was burnt out, resented my career, and experiencing a full-blown quarter-life crisis. Hustle culture officially took its toll on me. Sure, I was making money. I could go out to eat whenever I felt like it and buy nonsense things like Gundam toys. I had what most people would define as a good career, but I was so deeply unhappy. I was breaking down crying pretty much on a weekly basis. Every morning before work, I was dry heaving, and I didn't know why. There was one time I got so physically ill at work, I had to run to the bathroom, puke into into the sink and then get sent home. Except I didn't have the flu. I didn't have a cold. I couldn't figure out what the hell was wrong with me until I realized that it only happened when I was at work. Work was making me physically ill. In a few short years, I went from being an overachiever, workaholic type person to someone that needed to quiet quit in order to cope. I didn't care anymore that people thought I was crazy for being unhappy. I didn't feel like I needed to prove anything to anybody anymore. I didn't want to ladder climb. This was around the time where I started searching for answers, a solution, an escape out of this hellhole that I was trapped in. I started reading different self-development and business books, which gave me a way out. I did not want to be 50-year-old George over there getting his first divorce and counting the days till retirement. So the following 2 years, I buckled down and planned my exit strategy. I saved every penny I could, and I focused all my energy in my off hours into Honey and Absinthe, our side business at the time where we were going to conventions, selling our art, doing a bunch of stuff on Instagram and YouTube. So by 27, I had saved up enough money to leave, to quit my job, and to just live for at least 2 years and figure it out. We had grown Honey and Absinthe to a point where it was a pretty formidable small business, and the show I was working on at the time was ending, so I took that opportunity to leave. I started my YouTube career off with a viral video, and you'd think happily ever after, right? Wrong. At 27, I had to learn how to let go of my identity. When you've dedicated your entire identity and a decade plus of your life to your passion, letting it go is like dealing with a really messy breakup. What I really needed was just time to heal and to figure myself out. Unfortunately, I'm great at compartmentalizing and ignoring my own needs and emotions. I had to deal with this really messy breakup in public with a lot of heated criticism thrown my way, something I didn't really know how to deal with at the time. A viral video is both a blessing and a curse. Yes, it got me a lot of attention, it got me paid, it got me started in this new career that I wanted to pursue, but also it's not great for your mental health when you're new to that kind of thing, especially when your mental health is already not that great because of working in Hollywood. Not that my brain was going to let myself admit that about myself at the time. Plus, I had once again lost my entire community of friends for just wanting to tell my story. Don't be like me and think that your coworkers are your friends, because they're not. I was being attacked by the very people I wanted to help, which meant I had to come to terms with exactly how judgmental and insecure the art community really was. It was like dealing with the 18-year-old version of myself, except a lot meaner, and hundreds, thousands of them. Art, the very thing that defined who I was for my entire life, became the very thing I started to hate. Until one day, I just kind of broke down. I couldn't bring myself to make art videos anymore. I couldn't do commissions anymore. The one constant in my life that had always made me happy when I was being bullied, when people told me I sucked and I will never amount to anything, it just didn't make me happy anymore. So I made the conscious decision to let go of my identity as an artist. I didn't know what I was anymore, and in a way, it was both terrifying and really, really exciting. From 27 to 29, I had to find myself again, as cheesy as that sounds. I allowed myself to slow down for the first time in an entire decade. As an overachiever that always had plans and a list of goals to achieve, I didn't have any, and it felt really good to just be like, I don't know what I want to do, but I'm going to give myself all of this time to figure it out. I didn't have the pressure from my family to succeed anymore. I didn't have the need to impress other people for my own ego anymore, because at 25, I pretty much accomplished everything I set out to do. And honestly, it really wasn't as great as what the 18-year-old version of me thought it would be. I'd officially matured as a human being. So this is what all that wasted time taught me. Even though I wasted my 20s chasing after my passions, it taught me a really important lesson about how I don't want to live my life. At 20, I was convinced I had everything figured out. But now at 30, I'm confident no one has any of this shit figured out, and that's okay. I did the hard work on myself to let go of my ego and my insecurities that trapped me in a life that I never wanted. And as a result, I'm a lot kinder to other people as well as myself. The result of the 2 years of trying to find myself is recently I have discovered a lot more healthier things that I'm really excited to pursue in the next decade of life. This is gonna sound like a really nerdy comparison, but it kind of feels like I'm starting a new save file for a video game, except instead of starting completely from scratch, I have the best weapons, the best tools and skills already in my pocket, ready for the next decade. I hope if you're feeling lost in life, if you're also having some kind of quarter life crisis, or if you're just starting your 20s, that this video helps you out. If it did, maybe leave a like, subscribe for the algorithm, check out my new music video on my music channel, and make sure to subscribe for new DIY cabin videos.